I have a very extensive audio background. Video is something that has always been a hobby to me until the last 3 or 4 years. So I want to tell you a little bit about my company just so you know how we fit into this. JB&A, we're based in California. We're a consultant, we're a solutions provider, we're a stocking distributor, and we're a rep firm, and we also provide service. A lot of installation services we actually do, as well as tech support. But we are a distributor, however we're not the average run-of-the-mill kind of box shipper. Most of our sales are systems, so we do a lot of the engineering. Our job is really to find different technologies and package them together and make full end-to-end solutions. So that's what we do. We specialize in streaming. We specialize in medical video as well, digital signage, post-production, broadcast, and Pro AV. We have solutions in each one of those kind of niche markets, but most of our technologies are very much cross-market technologies. So today we're going to focus on 3 that we do, Haivision, Telestream, and Viewcast. We do have some other streaming devices, but I think these 3 really are the best in the market. Really, they kind of start on the lower end of cost and functionality, which is Telestream's Wirecast. It's a software platform. It's the lowest cost of entry of any of these. And then we have Viewcast, which is a very, very robust, kind of middle-of-the-road technology. When I say middle-of-the-road, I mean in cost. And Haivision, I think, would be kind of considered the Cadillac of streaming and video on demand. It's a full solution. It's not just a streaming encoder or a decoder, but it wraps in the whole network infrastructure as well. So today what I wanted to focus on was what it's going to take to stream to the internet for you. What streaming products are going to be right for you, because everybody's different. Of course, I love the Haivision stuff. It's terrific, but not everybody has the need for all the functionality, and not everybody has the budget. So I want to focus on the differences between the product lines and try and figure out which one is best for you, and how to leverage your streaming for multiple scenarios, such as digital signage and customer outreach on the web. So the things that I wanted everyone to know, if they didn't know yet, I'm sure most of you guys do know, but an encoder is a device capable of capturing, compressing, and converting audio and video. A decoder is going to do the reverse of that, and it's going to undo that encoding so that the information can be retrieved and displayed. CDN, this is where I get most of my questions, is in regards to a CDN service and what a CDN service does. A CDN is a content delivery network. It's a large distributed system of servers. It's deployed in multiple data centers on the internet. That's really what's going to allow really big spikes in usage. When we're streaming out to the world, and we don't know how many people are actually going to be pulling our streams, it's very hard to anticipate what the strain on my servers and my network is going to be. So when we don't know what those requirements are going to be, we normally go to a CDN service, which is normally a paid per month service. They charge you by bandwidth or by hours. But that's what's going to do delivery down to devices, so iPhones, iPads. A lot of people don't use a CDN, and they'll actually host it themselves. But depending on your situation and how many viewers you actually have, that's not always practical. Creating your own CDN can be very, very, very expensive. And then bandwidth, finally. I'm sure all of you guys know bandwidth, but it's the consumed data that we're talking about and how much data we are pushing around in the network. So I wanted to start with these 4 questions, because these are the questions when you guys get Modern Communications involved, or any reseller, or any streaming technology. These are the first 4 questions that they're going to ask you. So when you're looking at streaming, these are the things that we're going to need answers to in order to fit you with the correct technology. So what is the content? Streaming sports is a lot different than streaming a meeting. We need to have different technologies to capture that high motion in sports. So we're going to use different pieces of gear if we're streaming one piece of content over another. What is the size of the audience, and where are they located? Are they inside or outside your network? A lot of corporate clients are keeping everything inside their network, as well as schools. We do a lot of large universities that are doing streaming to their dorm rooms. They're not doing coax cable to the dorms anymore. Everything's network. So we're streaming all of their network TV into the dorm rooms. But we need to know, are we streaming inside of our network or outside? Because they do require different approaches. And finally, what is your audience viewing the content on? This really comes down to our transcodes and what formats of encodes we're doing. iPhones require a different stream than a Windows PC. So if we're streaming to everybody and we don't care, that's one scenario. But if we know that everybody's sitting at their desk on a Windows PC, we can take a different approach. So those are the main questions. I'm going to start with Telestream because it's really on the on the entry level of streaming. However, the tools that it gives you are really incredible. I think this is probably the best value product out there. Really what it is a virtual television studio. So it allows you to take multiple camera feeds, or you can even take a feed from your desktop, what they call desktop presenter. So I can take multiple feeds. It's a live mixer, so I can mix between shots, I can add graphics, I can add lower thirds, I can even do green screen, and it's all happening within the software. The downfall with that is you have to have somebody operating the software. We see this used in houses of worship all the time, in schools to do their daily announcements. It's a really low-cost way to get your content out to the web and allow you to do some, I think, fairly advanced moves, like doing camera switches, like doing your graphics. So this was really, I think, designed for webcasting. Almost every webcaster out there is using Telestream. Right now, they've actually packaged this product as for Ustream, as well as YouTube is now just about to release a version of Wirecast to their pro users. But it's a really, really widely adopted piece of software. I use it all the time. It's beyond just being a streaming piece of software. It's really a broadcast studio because we're able to take different feeds and we're able to overlay graphics and do chroma keying. So I wanted to put this part on here because these two price points I think are really important. And this is MSRP. For the regular version of this software, it's $445. I mean, it's the most low-cost way you can get into streaming. And then the Pro version is, just under $1,000. But it's going to allow you to use your computer as a streaming server. We're able to do layers. On the Pro version, we can do scoreboards. We can take any USB, FireWire, or HDSDI cameras if we're using an ingest card on the computer. And we're able to mix those sources. We can also record straight to disk while I am streaming. So people are using this just for recording because the tools that it gives you are really nice. This software is available for free demo, so if you guys are interested, you can even go to the Wirecast website, Telestream, and you can download the free demo. If you want a more full version, you can contact Modern Communications and they can get you the actual Pro keys. When you go to the website, the version that they give you is a little dumbed down. It's going to add watermarks. So if you want to try the full version, ask Modern Communications and we'll get you the keys. So the next one is going to be Viewcast. Viewcast is a really cool company. I think their claim to fame is really the Osprey cards. So they make Osprey ingest cards. It says there 370,000 have been deployed globally. That is a product that just flies off the shelves all the time. So what Viewcast did is they took their ingest cards and we have bundled them into an appliance to make it really easy to stream. But they went public in '97. They're out of Dallas. They're a really, really nice company to work with. Here are some of their customers. All these companies want to show off their big name customers, but I think the real meat and potatoes of what they do is really in churches and schools and smaller corporations because they have a product that is solid and it fits most budgets. So their products are going to range anywhere from $3,000 to $20,000. The $20,000 are big rack mount server type boxes that are going to do multiple streams. But then we also have some smaller boxes that just do 1 or 2 streams. The other nice thing about Viewcast is that they actually have software with all this stuff. So it's not just a dumb box that's streaming, but we actually have some software to do digital asset management. Very basic digital asset management, but we can also do scheduling. We can do remote control of my encoders. So that is, I think, one of the nicer bits of streaming technology. So here's just a brief little network topology, but really what we're doing is we're taking incoming streams. We do have the VMP, which is a video on demand type solution, so we can be recording and doing video on demand, and then we're pushing it out. Here's where the CDN is going to come into play, or we can just go through the enterprise network or the mobile network. A lot of companies are doing all three. On the streaming appliances, there is, I think this is the biggest part. It's called SimulStream. So SimulStream is a technology that allows me to produce multiple flavors of a stream. So as I mentioned earlier, when I'm streaming, if I'm going to an iPhone or a Windows mobile device, they all need different types of streams. What these Niagara boxes allow me to do is do multiple streams of the same input. So at one time I can be producing multiple streams and they're all going to be produced at the same time, all in sync. So the box back there, I think that we are doing 2 streams. We're actually doing 1 stream up to Ustream to deliver it. And then we're doing another stream to record the disk. So we can have it for video on demand later. So I'm going to go through their different Niagara boxes. They have quite a few. Come on in, guys. There's a seat up here and there's one over there as well. So these Niagaras, each one does a little bit different things. We're going to start off on kind of the lower end, which is the Niagara 2100. The Niagara 2100 is just able to do one type of stream. I believe this one is it's a Windows Media encoder. So if you need to stream Windows Media, and that's all you need to stream out to your CDN or to wherever you're going, this is a really good box because it's low cost and it's just going to do that one function. Now we have another version, which is the 2120, exactly the same thing, except it's going to allow you to do Adobe Flash H.264. So there's a lot of instances where we just need to produce one stream and that's it. It's going to a CDN or it's going to a streaming server, and I just need to get video from point A to point B. When I know what flavors those are going to be, whether it's Windows Media or Flash H.264, these make a lot of sense. It's just going to take one input and it's going to stream it in that format. Now, when we go up to the next boxes, what's going to be the difference is the encoding formats. So this supports, pretty much all of the streaming formats, and I can do them simultaneously. This is a standard def box, and we can go up to the next one, which is the 4100 that we have in the back, and this is a standard def or high def. The other differences between these boxes is going to be what the inputs are. So this box right here is an SDI or HDSDI input, which sometimes is an issue for some people. Depending on what you're using to stream, you might not need HDSDI. We can always convert, but we also have the smaller boxes behind it did have component and composite as well. So this allows me to log in via a web portal. I can log into the box, I can start streams, I can stop streams, I can create new encoders within the box, and really it's a CPU. So my limitation to how many streams I can produce, I'm limited to the CPU's horsepower. And you are given a readout as to how much of the CPU you're using. So every time you add a new encoder, you're going to be hitting that CPU harder. So I can monitor that and I can create new streams until I get my CPU full to where it's not going to perform anymore. But it's very rugged. I take it all over, and it's going to produce any stream that I need to produce, and doing them all at the same time. So for people that are going into different applications, I see this in rental and staging quite a bit. People that are doing events, because each one of their customers might have a different infrastructure that they need to plug into. So with this box, I can make sure that I can hit all those different encoding formats. I'm actually going to skip this one because this is end of life. But this one I see quite a bit in trucks and news trucks. The nice thing about this one is that it actually has an input monitor. The others, I don't have a monitor to see my stream. I can see it on the web when it's streaming, but this is going to give me a monitor out, so I can see what's going on. We see this in sports. I know NFL uses them. You know, all types of broadcasters, news stations use these. But this is just going to take everything that you saw in the 4100 a step further, because now it's dual channel. So this is able to take 2 channels in and stream them both. We also have a lot more input and audio and video input and audio input options. And we have 3 USB ports. So USB ports on these are used for a few different reasons. But mostly one of the nice things is that I can offload content onto a USB drive. So I can record everything locally. All these have a hard drive built in. So I can record locally and I can dump all those files onto a USB stick. 7550. This is a pretty awesome box. It's very similar to the other boxes. One of the things that I haven't mentioned is that all of these also do front panel control. So I can control everything via the web interface, or I can control everything from the front panel, which is very, very useful. Another nice thing that not a lot of streaming boxes do is it actually tells you what the IP address of the box is, which I have run into so many times, having boxes that I just can't find on my network. So it's really nice that these will actually display who they are on your network. And the biggest one right here is the Niagara 9100. This actually uses a blade system, so I can do up to 8 channels of streaming from this box. So it supports all of the streaming formats, and it's doing them all at the same time. This is a server class box, so it's not something that I'd want to sit next to all day long without it being in a rack, because it is loud. I know you guys can probably hear the 4100 back there. This box is probably double the noise, but it's smoking powerful. So really high performance encoding. When we're doing really, really high performance things, this is what most people are deploying. The management software is right here, so I can manage multiples of my encoders if I have multiples around. And this is going to enable me to schedule, to turn on and turn off boxes, to change formats. And so that was a little glimpse into Viewcast. Now I'm going to talk about Haivision a little bit. So Haivision, they take a different approach. Most of the other technologies that we're talking about are making encoders or decoders or both. Viewcast, they make encoders. Telestream, they make encoders. What Haivision does is they make quite a bit of things. So their idea is to really produce a full solution. So not only are they doing encoders and decoders, but they're also doing management software, they're doing video on demand platforms, they're doing digital signage, and they're also doing CDN service. So they're kind of a one-stop shop, and they can do everything. Their real thing is that they want to enhance communications. They are used very, very widely in all different sorts of sectors. It's pretty. I'm always excited when I'm involved in Haivision because I'm going somewhere cool. They're really about unified communications. So live video delivery, streaming from the cloud, digital signage, and IP television. These are their different product segments. So they have. Sorry about that. Kilobyte, which you guys have, is going to do my live video delivery. Hyperstream is going to do streaming from the cloud. It also does cloud transcoding. So I can send one stream up to the cloud, and then the Hyperstream service is actually going to re-encode it into multiple formats and deliver it for me. CoolSign is their digital signage platform. Really, really full-featured signage platform. It allows me to do triggering. We actually use this in the Pentagon. So the Pentagon uses CoolSign, and the reason they do it is because, number one, security. We had to pass a lot of security requirements, but we're able to control large networks very, very easily. So about 90% of the shopping malls in the country that use digital signage are on CoolSign, and a lot of them are controlled from one point. So thousands of players being controlled by one person. It's pretty awesome, and we also can do localized triggering. So in shopping malls, you're going to see that they're going to monitor an RSS feed, and based on the weather, they're going to push out different pieces of content. So it's 70 degrees and sunny, we're going to start advertising sunglasses. But if it's 30 degrees, we're going to start advertising jackets, right? So we can do all of that type of monitoring of feeds and triggering based on those conditions. And then I think their most widely sold piece is this Makito, which is their encoder. They also have a decoder version. These are really, really awesome encoders. Broadcast quality, 1080p 60, but they also have the lowest latency on the market. So when we're thinking about streaming, we have to realize that going through my network is going to take some time. And each one of these devices is going to take different amounts of time. So, in my personal experience, I used to do a lot of auctions. So I do audio-visual for auctions. And latency is the enemy, right? If you're bidding money, you can't be 3 seconds late in an auction. So latency and things like that are very important. When we're talking about sports, Haivision's deployed in many stadiums around for sports. And the reason is they can deliver video faster than anybody else. The worst thing is when you are walking around the stadium and you're seeing plays that you already saw when you were sitting in your seat. And that's because the latency just keeps adding up. The other hard part about latency is a lot of companies can't introduce latency to sync different streams. So what Haivision is able to do is, if I'm going to a software player or a hardware player, I can sync the latency. So everything's going to come out at the same time. And that's very, very difficult to do for most companies. So, use cases for Haivision: live video delivery, streaming from the cloud, digital signage, IP delivery, video management, and lecture capture. This is kind of a newer, I wouldn't say newer, but we're addressing this space a lot more now than we used to be. And there's a box right back there called the Viper, and that actually really focuses on lecture capture because it takes 2 channels, so I'm able to take a camera feed and a feed from my computer or whatever the presentation materials are, and record, stream, and publish them. It's really, really incredible. It's also a full video on demand system. So normally we have to put in servers and we have to do a lot of infrastructure to keep up video on demand type systems. And that box back there will actually enable up to 150 people to be logged in at any one time doing streaming or video on demand. So it's the whole network infrastructure wrapped into that small box. This is where we see Haivision. Haivision is huge in military. All of the Predator drones are using Haivision encoders. The reason is we're AES encrypted, and again, lowest latency on the market. We can do transmission from point A to point B from a hardware encoder to a hardware decoder in 70 milliseconds. That is much faster than anybody else is doing it right now. When we talk about my Viewcast stuff, if we're going out to the web right now, there's probably about a 2 or 3 second latency. When we're talking about 70 milliseconds, that's pretty awesome. We actually use it for telesurgery, which is really scary. But surgeons sitting in another room or in another state operating surgical equipment, but they're able to do it because our video is so quick. In education, we use it for a totally different reason. Haivision's video on demand and their in-stream player, when we're talking about streaming video to desktops, we have to have a piece of software to decode that stream. So we'll see like an Adobe Flash player on, big reason that Apples have problems, or iPads, is that they don't support Adobe Flash, and a lot of websites use Flash. So that's an example of not having the correct piece of software, so now I can't view content. So what Haivision does is they have what's called the in-stream player. And what that is we house the player in our server and we shoot it with the video. So anybody that has any web browser can view my video. That's humongous when we're talking about education, because if I have 5,000 students coming in the fall, that means that my IT staff has to now support 5,000 machines of any which flavor of getting them the correct software. And that is an IT nightmare. So we'll see it in education and corporate environments. They really like Haivision because we have an install-less player. It doesn't matter what machine comes onto my network, people are going to be able to retrieve my video. Retail and ads, again, it comes down to their Cool Sign software, widely deployed. It's all about the triggering, I think, in retail, as well as the ability to control a vast number of players very, very easily. In churches, we see it again. I know you had some problems with latency, and the way that you guys are using your streaming right now is, everything has to be in complete sync. You guys need to do delays. So a lot of churches are having very similar issues, and not only that, but two-way communication. We're seeing churches that have multiple campuses, and the pastor can be at any one of those campuses and needs to reach to the others at any one time. So we have two-way encoders that will do an encode and a decode at the same time. So we can almost set up video conferencing, but on a much more broadcast quality scale. Sports and entertainment, they come down to the latency as well. I go into a lot of sports arenas where they have problems that nothing is in sync. You walk around their stadium and everything is at a different point in their video. And that's a huge issue. And so Haivision addresses that. We're able to sync all of our displays. And we also are OEM'd in quite a bit of different forms, a lot in the medical market. So I want to give you a couple use cases of how people are using these. This is British Petroleum. This is their trading floor. And I don't know if you can see how many screens they have in this building, but it's over 350, I believe, desktops are in one room. And each one of these aisles is capped with a flat panel display. They also have these flat panels up here, and there's more surrounding the room. So there's hundreds and hundreds of displays in this room. We actually have two facilities, one's in Texas and one's in Chicago. But they're doing trading, right? So latency is a huge issue. If you're doing trading and you're late on a trade, that's a lot of money that you've just either won or lost, I guess. So they are, number one, BP Corporate is able to take over machines. That's one thing that I can do with Haivision. I can determine who is watching my content, and I can adjust what they're watching. So if I see, another example is in education, right? I am a teacher and I have a required video for my students to watch. Number one, I can tell who's watched my video and who hasn't. I can tell who's pulling my stream currently, but I can also adjust what they're watching. So I can say, you know what, they're watching the wrong thing, and I can switch what they're watching. I can take control of their machine. So if I see a student that's required to watch a video, but he's minimized that window and he's actually watching something on YouTube, I can see that they're doing that, and I can take control of their machine and push my content full screen and lock them out until it's over. So I have complete control over my end users when I'm using Furnace, Haivision's Video Furnace. I can also do things like adjusting their volume. I can send instant messages. So as a corporate communication tool, it's really, really effective because I can determine who's watching what, I can push anything that I want to any of these screens, and I can be sending instant messages to people. Again, synchronized media distribution, that's huge, and secure corporate communications. We're using AES 264, it's extremely secure. I know that the military had a problem with our drones a while back, being hijacked by terrorists. That's because they weren't encrypted. Unfortunately, our military did not encrypt those, so now everything is in Haivision, so now our drones are being controlled by us, thankfully. Education, Delivering online classes and television to the dorms is huge. Working on all platforms is another big thing. Because we have that in-stream player, it doesn't matter what you're viewing content on. In education, that's a really big deal. As well as the ability to record events, classes, and it's very resilient on my network. In the medical industry, like I said, we are doing telesurgery, which is scary. But we're also doing IP video. All of our encoders also have two-way audio communication. So I know in churches we use that quite a bit. So we can communicate through our encoder back and forth to each place. But in medical, they're using it for different departments. So now I can push video to one department. I can be talking to the pathology department. So it's really more about communication for them. And also, it's HIPAA compliant. So HiVision is the only HIPAA compliant system that actually goes into other markets. There's a lot of HIPAA compliant systems that are very focused on medical, but HiVision is HIPAA compliant, so I can be streaming any of my patient data across the network. Houses of worship, again, live services to satellite locations, streaming live sermons to handheld devices, that's huge. On-demand live events, as well as what's not up here is we also introduce metadata onto our streams. So in my video on demand, I can also be, searching for content, pulling up content based on keywords. And really we see this being used in IMAG and interconnectedness between multiple facilities. Again, military and federal, AES 256 encryption, real-time metadata with video stream. Like I mentioned, all of our drones are using HiVision stuff. It's pretty incredible how large, how much the federal government uses for HiVision. A lot of Department of Defense, NSA, they all use HiVision. Like I mentioned, sports and entertainment. We went into the Pittsburgh Steelers to Heinz Field, and that was really cool. We pulled out another system because it couldn't handle what they're doing. I'm actually just about to go do the same thing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've put in other systems. They can't sync the video. It's become kind of a disaster. So we go in, we put these in, and now all of their suites can now do video on demand. They can watch previously recorded content, watch other games. They can switch to the live feed from the game. We can be doing remote interviews, and it's really about making custom content for these, high-priced ticket holders, so that when we are going into the boxes, we have a very unique experience. So I'll touch real quick on the products, and after I show you guys these, then I'll actually show you how some of these work. So for the stream management, it is called the Video Furnace. So the Video Furnace is their stream management system. It's their video on demand system. For encoders and decoders, we have quite a few. They are different in terms of whether they're HD or SD and whether they're two-way or not. So the Barracuda is their SD box. The Makito is their HD box, and the Mako is an HD two-way box. It also can be blades. Any of these can be blades in a chassis, or they can be just an appliance. So if you're doing more than 3 encoders, and we can centrally locate them, it makes more sense to do it in a chassis. So the Viper, which I have sitting back there, is a multi-stream recording and publishing box. This is really easy for non-technically savvy people to use. It has like 3 buttons on it. It's start and stop and record. And I can also add hot marks, so if this is used in education or in any type of lecture scenario, I can be adding bookmarks or chapter marks onto my video. And later I can go back and add any type of metadata or any type of notes into those markers. And then when somebody pulls it as an on-demand asset, they'll actually see those markers and see the notes that I created. For our set-top boxes, we use the Stingrays. We also have these decoders. All of these can be decoders. We have a decoder version, or we can use the Stingray. The Stingray is normally used for their CoolSign software. And there's CoolSign, and then we also have live streaming to the internet with Coolabyte. So that's kind of the product family of Haivision. It's, again, like I said, it is all about being a well-rounded, fully inclusive system. A lot of problems that we have is that when we go into corporations, they are using multiple systems and none of them really talk to each other. So Haivision's a company that's going to give you the full solution. So let me actually dive into some of this stuff. And excuse me while I sit down, but I'm going to show you guys some of the software. So this is Telestream's Wirecast. As you can see, I'm actually presenting on a portion of this. I have my screen. So I have what's going on my computer screen. If this was a presentation, you know, I could have my PowerPoint up here. And then I'm using the camera that's actually on my machine. However, I can use connected cameras. So if I had a USB connected camera or a FireWire connected camera, I could be using that as well. And I have multiple shots. So I can do live switching like that. There's my dog. So I can set up multiple shots, and I can make it really easy to switch between them. I even can set the transitions between them. So if I want to do a swoop. And if you saw, I have even virtual sets in here as well. So if I get out of that. So we have not only these lower thirds graphics that I can choose from, and I can resize in any way. If I select this, if I want it bigger, smaller. I can move things where I want them. I can take any source and move it. Make it bigger or smaller. I can even do a rotation if I remember the hotkey. There we go. So you can really start to produce some really cool webcasts or recordings from this using multiple sources. And if I see in here, we even have virtual sets. This loads up. So I have virtual television sets. This allows me to do chroma keying, so I can do green screen. So I can take my video, if I'm behind or in front of a green screen, I can chroma key everything out, and I can set my image wherever I want on top of a set. I can load new sets into here, and I can build my own. It's really, I think, the best value for any piece of software that I've seen out there. Now, if I get into my broadcast settings, so I'm able to produce really two streams. I can produce a stream that's going to be recorded, and I can produce a stream that's going to be headed out somewhere. Now, with that stream, I can choose what type of stream I'd like to do. So in this instance, I'll take a flash stream. Actually, this one. And I'm going to send this out to my Ustream channel. So the nice thing about this is that we have all of these CDNs directly integrated into the interface. So as long as I have an account, all I have to do is add in my username and password, and this really takes care of everything else. So, some of the big ones, sermon.net, Livestream, Justin.tv is coming up there, and Ustream as well. So it's really easy. This is probably the easiest streaming product to use for novices. That's why we see it used so much for webcasts. So that's a little glimpse into Wirecast. Like I said, it is available as a demo, so it's a free demo you can download from the internet. Now let me jump into a couple other things. So this is Haivision's video furnace. If I can log in correctly. So what I just did right there, I don't know if you noticed, but I clicked on in-stream player and then it asked me, do you trust this or not? So I clicked trust, and what it did is it just shot me the player. So it didn't matter what I had installed on my machine. As long as I had a web browser, I'm able to get to my on-demand or my live streaming video. The way that it's sold is in a couple different ways. There's different versions of the product, and really it comes down to how many channels can I support. So these will connect to encoders. So right here I have 2 live channels. The box that I'm demoing, I have the ability to have 2 encoders hooked up to this. And they can be producing 2 live channels. So when my people log in, my viewers log in, they now have the choice of what they're going to watch. Are they going to watch my live streams? Are they going to watch playback channels? So a playback channel is just like a television channel, right? It's content that's already been lined up for the day. So you know what's on at what time. So if I look at playback number 1, here's the schedule of everything that's going to be playing on this channel for the day. So it's telling me what time it's going to start. And then I have my playback 2 video, and I also have on demand. So these are the on-demand pieces of content that I have in my system that I can watch at any time. So, you know, when we're looking at different ways that this is sold, it's really sold by how many of those channels can I support? How many playback channels? How many live channels? If I click on a piece of video on-demand content, it will pop up. It's probably below me. So, here I have the essence of Emerald playing. I mentioned earlier about making hot marks. Here are my different hot marks. Oops. Way too many things running on my machine. But what's nice is that with high vision stuff, I can actually do a scrub, and it's very, very responsive. Let me cut out telestream real quick. So here's an on-demand piece of content. If I want to switch and watch something different, it's very, very easy. I can do it this way, but I'm actually going to show you something else. So I have the ability to set alerts. I have the ability to set reminders as an end viewer. I can put things to sleep, I can do full speed playback, and I can also do things like viewing or monitoring multiple streams at one time. So I can set up a multiple viewer, so I can be watching 4 different channels at the same time. The caveat with that is that only one can be shown at full frame rate. So if I'm viewing 4 different channels, one of them is going to be full frame rate, the other 3 are not going to be. It's going to update every couple seconds with a new frame. But as soon as I click onto that frame, that one will now become the full frame rate. Let's see if I have anything playing on this. Yeah, I got nothing playing. So again, I can hop into on demand, find anything that I want. Now, what's nice about high vision is that I can make user groups and passwords. So I can determine who gets to see what. I can have a bunch of content loaded into my system, but I can say, hey, this group of people only gets to see these 3 pieces of content, or whatever it is. So we can now, for corporate communications, that's really important. We want to separate out by department who gets access to what. Either for security or just you don't want to overwhelm your people with giving them, 10,000 different videos that they can choose from. So it's extremely easy to do. The nice thing is that once I am encoding through the high vision encoders, this can automatically be recorded onto the video furnace, and it's made immediately available as on demand and as a live stream. I mentioned that Viper that's sitting behind there. that actually includes this whole infrastructure, as well as having 2 encoders built into it and a monitor out as well. So I can take any 2 feeds, be recording them and presenting them as live streams or video on demand for up to 150 people from that box. Now I have a lot of use case for that box being used with a centralized server. So we actually have another version of that product that takes all of the internal recording out, and we push all of the recording to a centralized server. So I can have multiples of those boxes sitting in different locations. We use that a lot in education, so they're going to have multiples of those, maybe 1 in each classroom, and then we're going to centralize the recording. So that is a little bit about high vision. Now let me get into the Viewcast box that's running back there. Second. So I just logged into the Niagara that's sitting back there. Again, it gets an IP address, so as long as I'm on the network, I can get to it. I just logged in, and here is my box. So I'm going to get into all of my encoders. I'm going to show you how this works. Everything that you see down here, these are all of the different encoders that I have set up in my box. Now, these can all have, number one, different resolutions, different qualities, but we can also have different outputs. So all of these can be going to different places. And as you can see, I have, right here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 7 different types of encoders going. And I am streaming this flash encoder right now, and that's signified by that blue mark. So I can do all of this from the front panel, or I can do it logged in remotely. But when I get into an encoder, show you what that's going to look like. So it's going to give me a ton of functionality to really determine how I want to create this stream. It's somewhat daunting, actually. If you're not a streaming pro, there's a lot of options that you can mess with. So I normally like to stick with the defaults, but you can do very customized things with this. So I'm in the 4100, which only gives me 1 input. I only have 1 SDI input, so that's all I get on here. As well as my encoder settings, I have already set this up as an H.264 flash encoder. I have my interlace options, which normally should be set at advanced, and I can also filter my video for gamma, brightness, saturation. Audio, same thing. I have the ability to adjust my bitrate, my format, as well as my encoder. And the output, this is the important stuff. So where am I streaming this to? This is going to, over here, I have this set up to stream out to my local host server. I can add in authentication if I'd like, and I can also output this to a file. So I can be doing that at the same time. So if I just want to record and save it for video on demand, I can definitely do that. I also have all these advanced settings that are extremely robust and granular, but I never touch them. So, again, we have presets that normally take a lot of the guesswork out. Another nice thing is that we have alerts, and these alerts can all be trigger emails to be sent. So if something happens, you can let your administrator know something just happened to the stream. I have seen a lot of things with some of the Viewcast boxes just not being set properly, because they actually do have so much flexibility in how you're going to create your stream. I see a lot of people that start to monkey around with it a little too much, and it starts to mess with their video. So it is something that I would stick with the presets unless you really know what you're doing, or you know exactly what the outcome needs to be. And if you guys ever need help, you always have Modern Communications and myself and my company to be able to help you through those things. So these are my alerts that came up. This first one is the one that really troubled me. I don't like seeing high temperatures. But any of these can trigger an email to be sent. Same thing with the high vision stuff. We also have alerts that can trigger emails. So your administrator can always be up to date as to what's going on. The other thing that I talked about with high vision was creating a log, so I know who's logged in to view my content. It's not as robust with Viewcast. With Viewcast, I don't know who is polling my streams, but I do know where I'm pushing them to. So I do have a log of every time anything's been done with inside the Niagara. The difference being that with high vision, I know everything that's being done at my endpoints. So, that is my presentation. Do you guys have any questions that I can help you with? I'll be around with all of these things, so if you guys want to dive in more granularly into any one of them, I'd be more than happy to take you for a spin. All this stuff you can get from Modern Communications. If you guys want demo gear, if you need to take things for a test drive, that's something we can provide, not a problem. So just let them know what you guys need, and we'd be more than happy to take care of you.
With regards to the metrics and knowing how many people are viewing your streams, like with high vision, did you have to be using their streaming service? If you're using their devices and the software and you're streaming to Limelight or something else like that, are you still able to?
No, once it goes outside of their system, then I don't have any.
So you have to use their
yeah, if you want those metrics, you want to be using their in-stream player.
Okay, got it.
Now we can present that in multiple ways. So with Coolabyte and with Hyperstream, I can actually push that out to a public web page.
Okay.
And their in-stream player is actually something that I can purchase the code for. It's really inexpensive too. It's like $1,200. And I can purchase the source code for that player, and I can embed that in my own web page. So anybody that goes to my web page is going to be able to view video.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Anything else? Perfect. Well, thanks, guys. Enjoy the cookies. There's drinks back there. If you have any other questions, just let me know. Thank you.